What's going on there, guys? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster here on this Monday, April 11th, 2022. It's about 6:43 p.m. California time out here. Latest quake on the Earthquake 3D globe shows a 3.7 earthquake into the area of Japan, it looks like, just off the coast there, Japan. Let's go ahead and check out this latest movement here over the last 24 hours throughout the USGS map here. Zooming out, of course, nothing going to be reported from the USGS here, but there is some movement taking place here from the EMSC model along the Japan coast over there into the Japan Trench. Looking at the latest here from the USGS model, showing quite a bit of movement up here around the Tonga area. Samoa and the Tonga Trench all getting in on quite a bit of deep earthquake activity out here, including a 4.5 down there at 508 kilometers below surface for that earthquake. So quite a bit of deep movement continuing. We have not seen, I'm still kind of watching this area pretty closely, folks. I keep saying that because it's been building up here with the amount of deep movement and the subsequent movement up here to the northwest and to the north. We should be looking at some earthquake activity at least here in the mid-5 range pretty closely along the Kermadec Trench into New Zealand. We did see a 4.8 pop up there yesterday, but I don't think that is subsequent enough or enough for far as like the release of pressure that's been building up in this region. Up here around the Solomon Islands into Papua New Guinea, look at that, 4.6 is the magic number out there, and there's a bunch of them. Crazy, right? Look at that. How can all three of them measure 4.6? But some of these are at different depths there for those earthquakes. But definitely 4.6 is a magic number for sure. Up here in the Philippines, a little bit of activity off the coast here into the Philippine Trench with a 4.6 at 39.8 kilometers. And into Taiwan, south of Taiwan, quite a few 4s in there as well, including a couple 5s, some lower grade 5, very shallow earthquakes there at about 10 kilometers, 6 miles or so below the surface. Japan Trench, I want to pull up the... let's go ahead and pull up the EMSC model here real quick. Stand by for just a second. Thought I had that up in the window, but I guess I don't. EMSC model, got to come in here for these smaller earthquakes, even on this map. There's that 3.7 that came in. Looks like there's a couple 3s popping up here around Japan. No major swarming. Most of the swarming confined here to the Gulf of California today. Seen quite a few 3s and some 4s in this area of the Gulf of California and up and down the Middle America Trench. So quite a bit of activity kicking up here in that region today. Along the Aleutian Trench, USGS showing a little bit of activity. Go ahead and bring the all magnitudes up here. Of course, doesn't add too much, but some movement. I kind of like this scale a little bit here. What do we got? 3.0. This one's pretty deep here. Some surface quaking going on prior to that with a 1.9. And some activity pretty much about the same sequence there. We get these shallow earthquakes up here and then deeper movement down dip there. And both of those regions are seeing that that same type of movement along the Aleutian Trench. Cook Inlet up through Denali. We've got one earthquake up here, 1.2. Denali National Park, 0.8 kilometers. Very shallow earthquake activity occurring throughout the region up there. What else we got here along the west coast? One earthquake. It looks like off the coast here of Northern California. Let's go ahead and zoom in. Actually, it looks like it's right inland, north of Petrolia. It's a station I monitor there on the seismograph stations on the live stream. So I didn't see that get picked up, but looks like a 2.4, 22.7 kilometers. Can anybody guess what this is? Definitely a subduction zone earthquake down there into the Cascadia subduction zone. So while we're on that, let's go ahead and check out the tremor map here real quick of the Cascadia subduction zone. And we got return of earthquake, or at least return of tremor, along the southern end of the Cascadia. About 19 earthquakes, or tremors, I should say, in the southern end, towards the southern part of Oregon. But even then, that's not a big number. Definitely not a big number. But this right here, this 22.7 kilometer deep, 2.4, kind of upstream a little bit of upstream earthquake activity occurring. The tremor activity occurs much further inland, but which in turn is down dip further deep into the subduction zone. So this movement that goes up here to the west, kind of on the map here to the west, is a much more shallower earthquake activity, stretching up towards the locked area of the Cascadia subduction zone. Washington, a little bit of activity up here across the Seattle Fault, actually just north of there. Seeing a trio of some earthquakes. Looks like an explosion out there as well. What's up with all these explosions going on here? Up in Washington, right at the right in the middle of the lake. Somebody's boat blow up? Hopefully not, but that's a pretty good explosion out there. 1.1 at 1.5 kilometers. I don't think they're out there fishing because it's going to be cold up there. A lot of low-level snow going on up there over the past couple days and today. Mount St. Helens. What's going on up here at 0.2? Let's go ahead and check this out here real quick along the volcanic seismicity map here. Mount St. Helens. I've been kind of trending towards doing this on every update just because of the lack of reporting up here from a couple of the agencies here in the Pacific Northwest. Go to September Lobe, Mount St. Helens, the dome. Last couple hours, can't really see too much in terms of earthquake activity. Let's go ahead and check out throughout early afternoon and this morning here on the UTC timetable here. 1 second. Give it a second here. 1 second, 2 seconds. There we go. Okay. So let's go ahead and check this out real quick. This shows a 0.2 right smack dab in the crater of Mount St. Helens at 0807 UTC time. 0807. 0807 is probably going to be this earthquake right around here. This little reading here, 0807. That's got to be this one. So they're reporting this little bitty tiny quake, little bitty tiny one. But what about these other ones that are definitely showing up a little bit larger here? That one's not much bigger, but these other ones definitely were on the previous day. I'll go back 2 days here and you can see the activity. Those are definitely much bigger than the 0.2s that are popping up, probably a little bit on the mid-1 range. So a little bit of activity occurring at Mount St. Helens, but nothing significant. No major swarming. Trust me, if we were looking at some major swarming, I would be blasting this all over the place and definitely be making it known. Some earthquake activity out here outside of Willows, California. A 2.3 earthquake at 0.3 kilometers. Very shallow movement out here around looks like just northwest of Princeton. I do know this area very well. I don't know of any natural wells or anything, or any oil operations and whatnot out here. I don't believe we have any in this region, but they're mobile. These things pop up. I've seen them out here along Highway 162 and areas around Willows. They're actually like some type of they're not permanent stations. They bounce around. They're mobile type oil and gas wells that run for a couple weeks and then they bounce around to a new area. But this earthquake here, definitely, I don't believe it's anything related with the with those type of operations. Just kind of a little on the odd earthquake out here. Kind of want to see if this has been reviewed. 2.3. It's automatic, so we have not gotten a review status of this earthquake yet. Backing out, of course, Clear Lake, that's always popping, folks. Check out Calpine on the internet. That will tell you all the information you need to know about the earthquake activity there south of Clear Lake. A little bit of activity outside of Livermore, Pleasanton area this morning. But, man, look at this. Still, aside from this movement down here, and this could start a swarm down here around the Brawley seismic zone, the Salton Sea area, could be bouncing into an earthquake swarm. Got to watch this area pretty closely. They do kind of kick up there with some 3s and 2s, and then they just go on for some microquakes here. But so far, just a 3.2 in this area. But watch this area pretty closely for some swarming. We have seen a very quiet spell. It's been pretty solid here for past couple days of very minimal earthquake activity here in the California region. So a little bit of movement, but still well below the background levels of typical earthquake activity in a single day. Got to watch this area pretty closely here. Same for the Intermountain West. We are seeing a little bit of activity into the Utah region, but even so, man, not a whole lot of movement throughout the area of Utah. Yellowstone National Park, some swarming going on. Let's go ahead and check out the latest Yellowstone overview here of the activity, and it looks like it's calmed down a little bit. The activity you've seen on the USGS map is from earlier this morning. Seen a couple ones kick off there, and some much smaller ones. But looking at the latest activity, look at those spikes right there. See that? Bam, 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 bam. That's kind of interesting right there. And those are definitely earthquake signatures. So a little bit of activity kicking up there at Yellowstone National Park. These sequence of earthquakes here is what I like to look for, some unusual earthquake movement. We always see earthquake swarms at Yellowstone National Park. You know, I don't want to blast on here saying, oh my gosh, there's an earthquake swarm at Yellowstone super volcano. It's going to blow. No, it's not. We see swarms all the time at Yellowstone, but it's unusual earthquake activity that I look for, and got to keep an eye on these little subsequent earthquake, this little, this wham bam earthquake activity here. But it looks like that was a few hours ago, but I will be watching that pretty closely. What else? No major movement. Of course, no magma movement. Looks like there's some signature over here once again. Seeing a little larger earthquake around the eastern side of Yellowstone National Park again. Looks like it's above the 2.5 threshold, according to the seismographs here. Showed up pretty nicely on Parker Peak and the promontory area. Not so on the western side of the park, strictly on the eastern side. So somewhere over here, and it could even be, looking at that seismograph, looks like it could be outside of the Yellowstone Park area. This is not a very localized earthquake, but it is up there above the 2.5 threshold, and the USGS is not showing anything out here along the eastern part of the park or up into Montana or Wyoming. So we've seen this a couple times here, this unusual earthquake activity that's not being reported here on the map, and it's definitely occurring over here along the eastern part of the park, and I'm not for sure why it's not showing up here, folks, on the map of the USGS, but we'll keep an eye on it and still continue to monitor the seismographs there very closely, because those things don't lie. When there's an earthquake, you can't really cover those up, can you, unless you pull the data, unless you pull the wires and the string. A couple of threes kicking up here, 3.1, 3.1, within a couple minutes of each other. Look at that double tap earthquake activity starting to show up. Roughly about 4.3 kilometers for both of those quakes. Some movement up here in the Oklahoma area. Man, some severe weather kicking off here in eastern Oklahoma and the western Arkansas area. A friend of mine out there storm chasing around the Fort Smith area today. Got his window busted out from some baseball-sized hail out there in the region. Pretty crazy weather. Of course, it is springtime, right? These storms do pop up, and it's very common out there for this time of year. 1.2, Howardville, Missouri, at the New Madrid zone, northern end. 6.7 kilometers for that earthquake. Nothing going on out here around the eastern seaboard. Pretty quiet. Puerto Rico area. This activity here around the Puerto Rico Trench and the Santo Domingo area to the west was from this morning. Although we are seeing the movement here, the swarm kick up in the southwest portion of Puerto Rico as typical movement takes place there in that area. South America, look at that. Absolutely quiet. But on the EMSC models, we're still looking at quite a few 2s and 3s up and down this region. Just haven't seen enough buildup yet for a major earthquake. But it's coming, definitely coming here in the Peru-Chile Trench. Let's go ahead and check out Hawaii, southeast region. And look at that. That is very... What do we got? 12 earthquakes? 12 measly earthquakes out here along the southeast region of Hawaii. That's not a whole lot, folks. Very quiet out there on the Big Island. Let's see, Philippines, a little bit of movement. We kind of chatted about that. Quiet around India. Had some movement in the Turkey area, 4.5. And an earthquake out here south of the Iceland area along the North Atlantic area. Hurricanes Ridge, 4.6. So yeah, looking at this, folks, definitely a couple areas to watch. We got to remember this further deep movement that we've seen over Fiji. Lack of subsequent movement here along the New Zealand area. They did see a 4.8, but I think we're looking at possibly something a little bit bigger in this region. And the West Coast, with it being absolutely quiet in terms of normal seismic activity, I think we need to watch the West Coast pretty closely as well. Watch the swarming up here or down here in the southern part of the state, but also Northern California with the movement upstream of the tremor activity taking place. Let's see what else we got here. Earthquakes Canada. We'll go ahead and check these guys out real quick here. And some movement into Washington here. The latest quake shows a purple circle outside of Seattle. 2.0. 47 kilometers. Holy smokes. That's a deep earthquake there outside of Seattle there that the Earthquakes Canada map is reporting. And other than that, one earthquake up here in the Yukon region with a 2.4 at 10 kilometers near Stewart Crossing area. Other than that, things look kind of quiet for daily activity up there in the Canada region. Solar weather activity, man, this thing has been crazy. The sun's been giving us some surprise activities. Of course, we had a G3 storm kick up unexpectedly a couple days ago, a couple nights ago. And then we had a C flare kick off from a decayed sunspot. It's basically dead. And it kind of just blasted off a C flare along with a CME that's Earth directed. Looks like impact should be around the 14th of April. And these guys are forecasting a moderate G2 storm. So we'll see. Wow, we'll definitely see what happens here. I know spaceweather.com had a pretty cool, interesting article on it. See if I can pull these guys up here real quick. And here's their little article. You can see the movement here from the dead sunspot, producing quite the full halo CME there. Dead sunspot explodes. The corpse of an old sunspot, which is this one right here, exploded earlier today, hurling debris directly towards Earth. The S-shaped magnetic filament at the base of the explosion is a classic sigmoid structure. Solar magnetic fields often assume this shape just before they explode. One study shows that sigmoid precursors are present in over 50% of the CMEs. Indeed, shortly after the explosion, a full halo CME emerged from the blast site. Pretty crazy, right? That is unbelievable. You can see the CME down here. Definitely Earth directed. So we'll see if that hits us head on around the 14th. But definitely the sunspot the sun has been providing us with some unusual activity. I mean, we try to forecast one thing, and then it does another. And then we forecast calm conditions, and then it explodes. It's like, wow. Some pretty crazy dynamics happening there on the sun currently. And I'm pretty excited as we head into the solar maximum. I can't wait, to be honest. Cannot wait. I'm ready. Are you? That's a question. Are you guys ready? All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here. Have a great night. Got some tri-tip and some chicken barbecuing out there with some, of course, if you know me, what type of wood do I use for some smoked meat? Black walnut bark. If you haven't tried it, you guys have to try it. Black walnut bark is superb in terms of great tasting meat. Let me tell you, I'm not going to kick up a YouTube barbecue channel, but every once in a while, I kind of like to blast on here what I'm eating for dinner, and it smells pretty yummy from in here. Have a good night, folks. We will chat to you a little bit later. Please stay safe out there. Have a good night.